All right, now we get on to the Saturday games. The first one is at noon. It is the Big 12 championship game between number 7 Texas and number 18 Oklahoma State. Again, noon on ABC Eastern Time. The playoff scenario for this one is pretty simple. As Texas is the only one that really has a shot at the playoff. Oklahoma State with 3 losses is not. Texas needs help with a win. Texas needs to win this game. And then, like we mentioned in our past Monday episode, they probably need to win and have either Michigan or Florida State lose, or there's a possibility that if Alabama beats Georgia, Texas would get in over both Alabama and Georgia because they beat Alabama earlier this season. I don't feel strongly about that one. I think there's a chance the committee jumps Alabama over Texas. So I think the more likely one is Florida State or Michigan, and obviously the more likely of that is Florida State to lose to Louisville for Texas to get in. So Texas really needs some help, even with a win, to get into the playoff. Whereas Oklahoma State on the other side, like I said, they're not in the playoff discussion, but they can win their first Big 12 title since 2011 if they beat Texas on Saturday. And it would ensure that Oklahoma State goes to their second New Year's Six Bowl in the last 3 seasons. So a really good stretch for Mike Gundy and the Cowboys recently. But Dalton, what are you looking forward to most in this game?
Oh, the obvious is the obvious, Max. Well, on either side, who's going to run the ball, but especially Ollie Gordon against this Texas run defense, man. Let's be real. Ollie Gordon should win the Doak Walker Award. He's leading the nation in rushing, second in touchdowns, second in yards after contact, the most 15-plus yard runs in the country, 5 touchdowns last week in a desperation spot against BYU. And he's done it all basically in like 9 games. The first 3 games, I think he might have had, 18 or 20 carries total it was. It was something like that. He basically barely played the first 3 games. So he's got almost 1,600 yards in 9 games, just carried this Oklahoma State team on his back all the way here. And going against T'Vondre Sweat and this Texas run defense. T'Vondre Sweat's the best defensive tackle in the country by the grading, number 1 in run defense. He's got the number 2 defensive tackle in the country right next to him, Byron Murphy, who's leading the nation in pass rush grade, and he's number 6 in pressures. This really Texas ability, for as much as they have Quinn Ewers and they had Jonathan Brooks and the run game's still getting going. I'll get to that in a second. Xavier Worthy and Whittington and Sanders and all this stuff. The most stable thing for this Texas team has been running and especially stopping the run. T'Vondre Sweat, you want tape? You want tape on him being an NFL player, probably for me at least a second-round pick. Go watch the Kansas State tape, man. This guy, he was the best player on the field from start to finish.
Against Cooper Beebe, too. Cooper Beebe was blocking one at some place, too, and he still was making plays.
Oh, yeah, against the best guard in the country, absolutely. From the first play to the last play, Kansas State could not get off running the ball. I mean, just he's a monster. It reminds me a little bit of you remember Damon Big Snacks Harrison for the Jets and the Lions.
Love that.
He makes such an impact in the run game. It's like that. Like he doesn't have a ton of pressures. It's like he's so big. I think he's 6'4" and 360, but he's so dominant in the run game that I could argue he's the number 1 reason Texas is here. That's how good he is.
Yeah.
And this Oklahoma State team, for as good as Gordon is, 88th in the country in run blocking. This is a massive task. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know that there's a team in the country that can run right at T'Vondre Sweat. They're going to have to find their way around. And Gordon, if Oklahoma State's going to win this game, this is going to take a superhuman effort from Gordon. On the other side, because I think the team with more rushing yards is going to win this game. Texas has found it. We were worried about him with Jonathan Brooks out, missing the rest of the season, right? But they found it. Look, C.J. Baxter at 117 yards at Iowa State, big win. Last week, had a whole committee of guys that combined to rush for over 330 against Texas Tech. They need that. They need that badly. Texas, the base of their offense, for as much as all the star power is at quarterback and on the outside, the run game is the foundation of their offense. It's why we were worried when Brooks got hurt. And it affects their passing game, too. Look, Quinn Ewers, okay, he's a top 10 play-action passer in the country. Non-play action, he's 96. Grade around a 62 or a 63, all right? So this is really getting the run game going for Texas offensively, too, is the big thing. Now, if they can get there and they look like they did against Texas Tech last week and everything else is working and the pressure is off of Ewers, then they'll be the better team in this game. But I think this game comes down to who who can get more rushing yards, who can really get their run game going, and especially for Oklahoma State against that interior for Texas, that's a real problem. T'Vondre Sweat several times this year has been the best player on the field in these Texas games.
Dude, I feel like I shared my document with you before we started recording. It's literally my entire thing was about Ollie Gordon against Texas, and all the stats that you just laid out are the exact stats that I had as well with the rushing yards.
Sometimes the obvious is the obvious. I mean, that's just it. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, that's the storyline, man. It's really can Ollie Gordon basically carry this Oklahoma State offense? Because like you mentioned, man, you look at the Oklahoma State offensive line, especially on the interior. All three guys on the interior are below a 70 this year. So T'Vondre Sweat and Byron Murphy should have a field day against this offensive line. That's, again, another reason why I think Ollie Gordon deserves a Doak Walker award. I agree with you, is because he's doing all this with a well below average offensive line blocking for him. And he's still the best running back in America. So he has been phenomenal this year. And also, he's got to carry this offense. Oklahoma State is 78th in the nation in terms of EPA per pass this season. Alan Bowman is a average quarterback, if that. So you need a lot of help on Oklahoma State in terms of Ollie Gordon carrying this offense. Because if he doesn't, and if it turns into a game where Alan Bowman needs to win the game for Oklahoma State, I don't think they're going to be able to do that, man. So and Texas's pass defense has been pretty solid this year. The secondary, especially, I really like the Texas secondary this year. But yeah, I think Ollie Gordon needs to have a huge game. But like you mentioned, Texas' run D with T'Vondre Sweat leading the way has been phenomenal. Right now, Texas 8th in the nation in terms of rushing yards per attempt allowed at about 3.9 yards this season. Also mentioned before how Ollie Gordon is second in yards after contact. Texas is 4th in the country in terms of how many yards after contact they allow per attempt, which is about 2.4 yards. So, like you said, I mean, you took the words out of my mouth. Ollie Gordon needs to be superhuman in order for Oklahoma State to have any chance at an upset. So ultimately, Dalton, will Ollie Gordon be superhuman, and will Oklahoma State pull off the upset, or will Texas keep their playoff hopes alive and turn their attention to the later games to see if they go to the Final Four?
You mentioned Bowman, and a big thing in this game is going to be not turning the ball over. When he kind of had a mini, I don't know about hot streak, but he was better in the middle of the season. He wasn't turning the ball over. The last 3 games, he got 6 interceptions and 8 turnover-worthy plays. He just can't put the ball in danger. He has to allow the run. Complementary football, right, is what they talk about, and complimenting your back and complimenting what's become like a pretty good kind of opportunistic defense. They forced some turnovers. The game ended last week with a forced fumble, but one of maybe the quietest constant in college football this year has been Texas' ability to run and stop the run. And I think of the teams that they could have played in this title game, I think Oklahoma State is the team they most wanted to. Yeah. Oklahoma had already beat them once. Kansas State, I picked Kansas State to beat Texas the first time, and it went to overtime. It was a dangerous game. Kansas State was 5 yards from winning that game. I don't think they would have wanted to play K-State again. I really don't. I think this is the best matchup Texas could have gotten. I think the constants of their front seven, and even without Jonathan Brooks, with Baxter and Jaden Blue and guys like that in the run game, it's stable. They play a stable brand of football. If it's not the highest, I don't think Texas is like the best team in the country. I don't think anybody thinks Texas is the best team in the country. But what they do is very, very stable. As long as they don't fall behind for any reason early in this game, I like Texas. I'm going to take Texas 31-21.
Okay. Yeah, I'm taking Texas in this game as well. And my hot take, Dalton, that I teased you before the show, of all the games we're talking about today, I think this is the biggest blowout that we're going to get. I think Texas is going to destroy Oklahoma State in this game. I understand a lot of people are saying, whoa, wait a minute. Iowa's playing Michigan. We'll get into that game in a little bit. I think Texas is going to win, not only because I think they can stop the run at an elite level, which is important and really the key to just slowing down Oklahoma State and actually just halting Oklahoma State's offense entirely. Texas is in the mindset of not only do we need to win, we need to blow the doors off them. We need to show the committee, hey, this is like we are one of the top 4 teams. We need to be the top 4. So if they win in a close game over Oklahoma State, I think a lot of committee members will be like, oh, okay, we could put Alabama in over them. If they blow the doors off of Oklahoma Sate, I think that'll say a lot more. Whereas Michigan, we'll talk about the Michigan game later, which I think still will be not a very close game. But I think Michigan is more in the mindset of, okay, well, all we got to do is just win. Like, why leave our starters in the second half, in the third quarter, fourth quarter, like we've seen, then take out J.J. McCarthy in the third quarter before. why even risk that when all we got to do is win in order to beat Iowa? Texas, I think, is in the mindset of we need to not only win, I think we need to keep the foot on the gas pedal no matter how much we're up by over Oklahoma State. So not only is it a great matchup for Texas, I also think they're in the mindset of they need to destroy Oklahoma State to boost their resume a little bit, whereas Michigan doesn't really need to do that against Iowa. All they got to do is win. I got Texas in this one 38-17. I think they're going to win by 3 touchdowns over Oklahoma State. I think they cruise to their first Big 12 championship in 14 years. I couldn't believe that when I saw it done. This is their first. If Texas win this game, it's their first Big 12 title in 14 years. And now, like I said, they turn their attention to the later games to find out their playoff fate. But like I said, I think this is going to be the biggest blowout that we see in conference championship weekend, in the Power 5 at least. And honestly, I think out of any of the games, this is probably the biggest blowout that we see.